Hello and welcome to Around the Scene, presented to you by Playing with the Rockets. I'm one of your hosts, BWR Ryan, and joining me is Daddy Perino. How you doing, man? Oh no, you're muted, I think. I think you're still muted.
Oh my god, I forgot. Okay, alright. Yeah, I'm a little out of breath. I'm a little out of sorts. You know, nobody gave me the memo, Ryan, that we're supposed to be drinking tonight.
When do we not drink, man? When do we not have... When do one... Like, we both always have something to drink during this thing.
Well, okay, so...
You should expect it at this point. I didn't think I had to tell you.
Well, it was, we're a little bit ahead of schedule. We're an hour early, so...
Yeah.
I wasn't ready, man. I wasn't ready. This is, okay, I'm not drinking Miller Lite. Thank you. This is a Trogs Perpetual IPA. It is excellent. If you're anywhere around the Pennsylvania area, you should try it. It's excellent.
Okay. I have cream liqueur.
Nice.
It's like moonshine cream liquor. It is so good.
Ooh.
Mix it with some cold brew coffee. Oh man, that's the stuff right there. Get you nice and good for the winter.
That sounds excellent.
But guys, if you didn't know, this is episode 28 of Around the Scene. We're here to give you your fix on all things Rocket League every single week. Even though we were just talking about a lot of nonsense, we're here to do that. If you like this, be sure to give us a follow, sub, thumbs up, whatever you do on whatever place you're at. You know what to do. You just haven't done it yet. And for that, please hurry and do it. If you want to be a part of the show, the only way to do that is to be here. Or in our new segment for today, you can be a part of the mailbag by going over to patreon.com/playingwiththerockets. If you donate even $1 a month, you get access to our monthly mailbag. We're going to do it as the final episode of every single month. So we're going to be doing that later today. So we have some questions to go over for you guys. And for our Patreon producers for the month of October, we're going to give a shout out to Kelvin Winter, Father of Five, Jonesy, and Nao. Thank you guys so much for your support. It really does mean a lot to us. And then housekeeping, quick shout out to Nexum Crash over on Reddit, who gave us an RLCS Emerald Pro wheel code. I can't say words right now for some reason. He gave us that code to give away. It's good for all platforms. The only problem is we still haven't quite figured out how we're going to do this because we're trying to think of a way that we can impact all of the places the podcast is at and not just one place. But the problem is on a lot of the podcast platforms, we can't see who's following us. We just know the number. And in some of the cases, we don't even know the number. So we're trying to figure out how we're going to go about that. Odds are we may do something with YouTube or Twitter. We don't really want to do a live giveaway because so few people watch the show live. We have a lot more people who watch it later. So be on the lookout for that. Hopefully we'll come up with something this week. That's been a struggle for us.
We're trying to make it fair to everyone,
Yeah.
because it's hard to be like, especially if you're in another region, if you're, just with the work schedule, you can't do, 7 or 8 o'clock on Wednesdays. Like, we get it. So we're trying to help out everyone.
So we're trying to come up with a decent way to do this because like we're super appreciative that he gave us the code and like we want to do right by like giving it away in a proper manner. So just bear with us. It's gonna come out eventually. And then our final bit of housekeeping, we have the Takeoff, which is our $1,000+ tournament that we announced. That is the qualifiers for that start on Monday. So if you want to participate in it and you're a North American team, you got buddies to play with, go follow us on Twitter or go join our Discord. You can do !Discord there and chat. Be at one of those two places because that's where we're going to post the information. It's going to be posted tomorrow or on Friday probably. I had to think of what day week it is. It has been such a weird week. You and me were just talking about that.
Yeah, it's been really slow. Like, I don't know how it is for you, but like around here, like, in Philadelphia, like it's been like cloudy, it's been rainy, it's been kind of cold. So like the week just feels like it's been dragging on forever. Like I legit almost forgot that we were supposed to do this today. I was like, I looked at the time and it was like 6 o'clock and I was like, Oh, wait, that's right. I have to do this show in an hour. So
I thought that we were supposed to do it yesterday. I almost like messaged you saying, "Hey man, are you ready for the show?" And I was like, "No, don't. It's Tuesday." It's been a
mm,
weird week, man. I don't know what it is, but we have a pretty easy news week for us. We're gonna go through these and then we'll do the mailbag afterwards. But we have 3 items on our news segment today. You ready to jump on in?
oh, let's get it. Let's get it going.
Let's go. First bit of news: Liquipedia announces the unofficial world champion for Rocket League. So, for those of you who don't know what this is, I'm gonna pull it up so you can hear what it's all about. Based upon the idea of the unofficial world championships, the title of unofficial world champion has been coined for different esports titles as well, such as League of Legends or StarCraft. Or StarCraft 2. It names the world champion according to the logic of a King of the Hill contest, where the king retains his title until another team defeats them in a tournament and thus gets to sit on the throne and be the king themselves. For this particular ranking, the unofficial world champion chain kicked off right after RLCS Season 1 Grand Finals, where iBuyPower Cosmic defeated Flipside Tactics to take the spot of the first ever world champion. From that, the chain continues to every match that has been notable and or covered on the site, which includes the champion going up against a challenger in an environment that promotes competitive integrity. This therefore means that matches which include mutators, for example, like the Midseason Mayhem, back when they did that in Season 2 and 3, which I really wish they would bring back, because I really could use some more fun in my life like that. But nonetheless, that doesn't count. Tournaments that are also played out in a game mode other than 3v3, such as the Universal Open, also do not count towards this ranking. So 2v2s, that don't matter. If a team disbands or competes by having 2 members of its roster different from what they have competed with in their most recent title match, the title goes back to the owner that got defeated by the mentioned disbanded roster. It's a very confusing thing. Go to Liquipedia, though, and check it out. It is so cool to follow the chain of like how teams, when they got beat, how long they had the titles for. The title is currently held by NRG after they defeated the Pittsburgh Knights.
Interesting.
You have to like backtrack on it from there.
Yeah.
It's like it's weird, but interestingly enough, it also breaks it down how many champions that were in each region. So EU has had 41 champions. North America has had 18, and OCE and SAM have a whopping 0.
Yikes. Yeah, that's probably more due to the chaos that has enveloped the European region for a while now. We're just now getting to that in North America, which I think, again, you're talking about. You missed Midseason Mayhem. We already have Midseason Mayhem, Ryan. We have it in the form of our RLCS results.
It's not the same.
I mean, I don't know if I wasn't a huge RLCS guy back then, so I can't really attest to the quality of gameplay upheld in the Midseason Mayhem. But
I mean, compared to now, it looks bad, but
well, sure.
It still would be fun to watch, man. That's all I'm gonna say.
But, well, we should start a petition. Get a petition going. Email Psionics. Psionics, please.
Guys, do this for us. But I don't know. This is a really cool thing. I like this idea just because it's interesting. Because like when I was a little kid, that's how I always perceived sports to go. Like, oh, they won the Super Bowl last year, but they just got beat. Are they the new champions? Like as a kid, like that's what you typically would like think happens, and like in general, it kind of makes sense. Like, oh, technically now you're the world champion. Like I just like the idea, and I like that they finally brought it to Rocket League. Huge shout out to Lucas over on Liquipedia. He has just been insane with how much time he devotes to this thing for us. So yeah, huge shout out to him. He put this all together for us.
Yeah, he does a absolutely incredible job, but it should also be noted, and I think we've said it before on the podcast, that they are looking for help with the site in general. They need more contributors. So if you have time and you know your stuff, go and check out Liquipedia and go help them keep it the best Rocket League site out there, because I really think it is simply the best resource for Rocket League esports. Should clarify.
Just for so
Out
much
there.
stuff. Like, I mean, their Rocket League side, like it. You and me, every single time we do the podcast, this is where we get a good chunk of information. This is where we go to for the match results because we prefer this over the official site because the official site sucks. But like, I like this a lot, and so yeah, if you can help them at all, be sure to go do that. You got anything else you want to add on the unofficial world champion? There's really not a whole lot we can say about it unless we just like want to track back, but I don't know that we can do that.
Yeah, it's a cool little thing. I like that they have put the effort into going in and tracking it, because I'm sure that was a pain to do, going through all the results and trying to find them.
Every single tournament since season 1.
I know, all the dream hacks and the packs and the Beyond the Summit and
that would
E-League and
suck, man.
RLCS. Yikes.
Props to you, Lucas.
Yeah, pretty much.
But okay, then with that, we're going to detour real quickly into the roster shuffle, where Yummy Cheese Man has become the new team manager and coach for Team Reciprocity. So huge congratulations to him. He did stuff with those guys back when they were on PSG for like Beyond the Summit. I had to think of the name for a second. So like he's done stuff with them before as a coach, so they know like he's capable.
Yeah, and I feel like he's been actually working with them for a while, but we're just sort of getting the announcement now. This has been kind of
he wasn't with them for a while. Like he was off doing his own thing.
Yeah, but I thought
because he was with them before they joined Team Reciprocity. So like that whole thing was like just for Beyond the Summit, and then they stopped. Because that was when they were like between teams, so they were Team Frontline.
Okay. Well, in that case, again, I'd sort of, when I saw this pop up on our feed, I thought I'd seen this before. Maybe I'm just confused on my days of the week, and I think it's been out longer than it has been. But either way, good for Yummy Cheese, man. It's nice to have something that is a bit more what's what I'm looking for, a bit more guaranteed than doing casting work in OCE and all that. So like, I'm happy that he has this position and that he's got a little bit more job security.
Yeah, same. Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier. Is like this dude was looking for a job for a while, so I'm happy that he's got a job now.
Yeah, that's always a nice bit of incentive to stick with it, and keep grinding, keep working, and all that. So again, good for him.
So with that, we are gonna bounce. So that concludes the roster shuffle. Kev Dog, we would mention that little transition, but it's largely unimportant at the moment because we're in the middle of RLCS. Maybe like during the offseason that becomes important again, but not right now. It's not. We're talking about bubble scene player movements, but that's largely unimportant right now. So we're in the
big leagues, dog.
Yeah. So with moving into the big leagues, we're going to go into the week 4 results, starting with North America. You want to lead us into this one? You want to take the reins here for a moment?
I certainly can. So we're going to hop into the North American version of RLCS Season 8, and this was a incredibly important week. If you were tuning in with me last week, I talked a lot about how the matchups this week were going to shake up the standings, and again, we had a whole bunch of results pop up that have defied our expectations. So leading into it, we'll start with our first match of the week. This was Space Station Gaming versus Ghost. Both of these teams really needed a result this week. However, in the end, it was Space Station Gaming taking it down really tight series 3-2. Both teams super competitive the whole way. Ryan, did you get a chance to watch these teams go at it?
This one I saw a little bit of. Unfortunately, I couldn't sit down and watch like a majority of the games, but this one I saw like bits and pieces too. Uh, this one didn't basically get reverse swept.
Well,
Am I
so
mistaken,
Ghost.
or
So
did I see it go?
so the
They
first
were maybe, I don't remember.
so the first two games went the way of Space Station, and then Ghost actually took the next two. They took Game Three in
Okay, so
overtime,
that's what it was. It
and
was
then
almost a reverse
almost.
sweep in favor of Ghost Gaming. Gotcha.
Yes. So again, it was really tight. All the games were really close. It wasn't like one team was really blowing the other out. I thought both teams again played really well. Um, but yeah, I think Ghost needed that result. We'll talk about again. It's hard because like I want to like say like how it impacts everything, but I don't want to give away the next couple of results because again we'll jump into it. So it might be easier to sort of.
I think a bit to talk about for it though is the fact of it's insane that Space Station and Ghost are top four teams. Like,
Oh yeah.
this season has just been outrageous for North America. Like we talk about how crazy it's been over in EU for like the past 2 seasons now,
Hmm.
and really until you saw Dignitas fall, did you really see EU kind of make way into this new era of everybody can beat anybody pretty much. It's interesting that we're finally kind of reaching that point in North America. And I think that you
Hmm.
might see it get even more crazy once Energy join in on things too. Like I think that they're probably the closest thing to old Dynasty Dignitas that we have currently. But it's interesting because Space Station and Ghost are teams that like when you looked at the start of the season, they were teams that nobody, based on like the results that Ghost got last season with Lethamir, like I don't think a lot of people thought Atomic was going to be that huge of a boost for them, but he's proven to be really outstanding for these guys. And similarly with Space Station, like so many people thought that move to drop Sathu was just a bad move. I mean, myself included, I thought that was just not the way to go. And I really do think that they're basically the same as they were with him. So I almost think like they would be better now if they had kept him, continue to work on things as a team, but they didn't. And so, but like they're still third and fourth place, like is just ridiculous to me. Like this doesn't feel like how it's supposed to be, I guess. I don't know.
Well, we've had again, as North American fans, we've had the benefit of having that consistency, right? Where okay, every season it's between NRG, Cloud9, and G2, and
Yeah.
depending on the week, really, or depending on the time of month, like which one is better than the other. But and it's been them and then the rest. This is very new to us, but
I mean, I'm for it. Don't get me wrong. I'm for it. It's just it's interesting that these are the two teams at the top right now.
I think Ghost have been playing really well. I've been on the Ghost train now again since really the start of this season. Once I saw them come out with Atomic, they're legit. Like
No, I think Atomic's been like a stand-up addition for the team for sure.
and
It's one of those things that like I just never expect one player to really bring a team to the next level like this. But I mean, you see it time and time again with different players, like between them and KDOP and Alpha. Like Alpha, the only reason TSM are still in anything right now is because of Alpha. That's the only reason they're in anything right now.
yeah, and specifically with Ghost too. When they dropped Lethmere, the playstyle difference. I think the other element of it is not just the individual impact that Atomic has, but also I really think they've opened up memory too.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like in the past when they had Lethmere on the roster, memory was sort of stuck, in that defensive, catch-all role, like the Rizzo role or the Torment role. But now
Atomic is pure offense, man.
but he buys so much more freedom from memory. It's amazing the difference memory season has gone. I think with this roster, so I think addition by subtraction almost.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, I agree with that.
So yeah, they have been.
You don't feel so cluttered.
Yeah, it just gives you more freedom, and that's a big thing as a Rocket League player. When you're when you're playing these games, every decision is so fast and every decision is so impactful that when you have like that little bit of extra time that another player on your team can buy you, it can make a world of difference.
Yeah. But
So
you,
yeah,
are
I
you
think we
good on
should
this one?
talk about the next one because the next one I think was the headliner for North America this
Yeah,
week.
I would definitely agree with you on that. The next one was Energy beating out Pittsburgh Knights 3-2, finally stopping the Knights in their tracks on their just path of destruction they've been on through North America right now. Um, that's not to say that it wasn't without close calls because the series went in the way of Pittsburgh Knights 3-1 for game one. Then game two was 4-2 in favor of Energy. Then after that, it was like too close for comfort. Game three went 1-0 in favor of the Knights. Game four went 3-1 in favor of Energy. And then Energy managed to take the final game 2-1. So it's like these were extremely close matches. Like Pittsburgh Knights were able to take Energy the distance, and I mean they made them sweat a bit. Like I was sweating just watching the bits and pieces I was able to watch.
Uh, so this was actually one of the series that I caught. I was able to sit down for the full 40 minutes or whatever and watch the whole thing. And my opinion personally, and I might be biased as an NRG fan, but I don't think
we're
NRG
both
even played
biased.
that. I don't think NRG even played that well, to be honest with you. I really don't. I think in the first game there were clear
But
mistakes that gave Pittsburgh Knights some goals. I felt
I think the problem with that is though that every time teams seem to play the Pittsburgh Knights, the excuse that everybody keeps saying, and I'm not saying that you're giving an excuse, but I'm just saying the reasoning everybody keeps giving is like, oh, this team didn't look that good. Well, I'm starting to think that it's with the play style that the Knights do though, or I'm not starting to think, I've kind of thought it for a while now, but with the play style that they have, that's part of why the teams don't look good is because they throw them off their grooves so much with like demos and their play style is just something that people are really struggling to deal with. And like, if any, it's just been fun watching them take these teams.
highly entertaining. Don't get me wrong. Like this was probably the best series I think in all of North America this week to watch. No doubt about it.
Yeah, for sure.
The first game in particular comes to mind. Like Turbo missed, an easy touch and then an easy backboard read. Well, I mean, I say easy for RLCS level players should be
For
very
players
easy.
of their caliber, they should be able to lock those in.
And they sort of got gifted 2 goals in the first game, and then in the third game that they won out that they lost as well. It was a big bump play by the Knights. Somebody just got. I think it was actually Turbo again. Just got caught out. And didn't.
Yeah.
Wasn't able to see it coming. It's like. I give Pittsburgh Knights a lot of credit because overall I think they did play really really well, and to take 2 games off of Energy is still immense. The fact that they even had a shot because they had 2 games to close it out. They won the game 1 and game 3, so they had 2 games to close it out. Just couldn't quite do it, but this was really entertaining, and I'm just glad Energy was able to survive, man. I don't know if I could have taken this week if the Knights had actually beaten them.
Yeah, I think, like, and you and me talked about it before, but I think if the Knights had won, it would have been awesome in a narrative perspective of, like, the big three are officially no more. Granted,
Right.
I still think you can say the big three are no more, but that's a topic for another time. But it's just I kind of wanted them to win because of like the story of it all. But I'm as a longtime Energy fan, I'm glad that Energy won. I'm very conflicted on it because like as a caster and everything, I want Knights to win. But as like as a fan, I'm like I want these guys to win. It's very difficult, man. It's very difficult.
The Knights are amazing for the RLCS in general. What they've
been fantastic
this season is, again, as you said, from a narrative perspective, it just overall, like as a viewer, like just so good for the
it's been great
for the sport, I should say. They're good for the sport.
But moving on to the next one, these next ones we'll probably blaze through just because there's really not as much to talk about. But Ghost versus G2. Ghost managed to take that 3-1. So G2 drops yet another game. This puts them all the way down in the 5th place position with Ghost just right above them.
Yikes, huh?
Yeah, big yikes, man.
I know.
Big yikes.
And so this was the one that I was talking about when we talked about the first series between Ghost and SSG. I didn't want to like spoil it, in case people haven't checked, and they're listening to this for the first time.
If
but
you're listening to this, you're asking for spoilers. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, but I'm saying if people had waited to not check spoilers until the show, I didn't want to, just jump ahead like that. But
yeah.
So this one, Ghost 3-1 over G2. Yeah, something's really off with G2 and Cloud9 this year, clearly. Again, Ghost played well. I will continue to say it. G2 only scored 2 goals the whole series, and that was 2 in Game 3. And that was it. They got shut out in Games 1, 2, 4. Big yikes.
Yeah, it's bad when every single game you lose is a straight-up shutout. But it's also, they were talking a little bit about this team, and I think it was Rizzo they were talking about, who, like, when he doesn't, it was something like when he doesn't get an assist, the team almost always loses. It was something ridiculous, like if he doesn't get an assist or if he doesn't do, God dang it, I can't remember what it was they were saying. I have to double check on it, but it was like he's not participating in a certain way that typically has led them to success.
Yeah, they just look really off.
Yeah.
It's sort of been the story for them this season, and now G2's on the outside looking in. They're 2-3, and they have to be careful because next week they have Space Station and Cloud9 to play, and those are not easy games. So
no, especially with the way that Space Station's been playing, and then Cloud9, is going to be hungry for their victory
because they're in pure desperation mode. We'll get to them too,
for sure. But yeah, it's looking pretty dire here for some of these teams at this point. And G2, they're right there on that cusp of possible relegation tournament facing them. So they're going to want to fix things up like ASAP.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next one, though. Pittsburgh Knights take down the Birds and the Bees 3-2. I was a non-believer of Birds and the Bees at the start of the season. I was like, these guys are going to be at the bottom of the bracket of the standings. Like, they're not going to be anything. They've proven me wrong, and I'm stoked for them. I love being proven wrong by these teams. I love when they step up when I'm expecting them to do bad. Like, it's awesome to see. They still lost that game 3-2, but they did better than I ever expected them to do at this point. I mean, they're sitting 2-4 in the standings. Like, they're still right at the cusp of relegation, but I was expecting them to be like Splice and come away with almost no wins. So
yeah, well, and they forced Pittsburgh Knights into the reverse sweep. They actually took games 1 and 2, and they shut out the Knights in those 2 games. When I was watching this, I'm like, oh my god, the Knights are about to get swept by the Birds and the Bees. Yeah. They managed to grind it out, and they, again, took it in overtime in Game 5. What more
Pittsburgh
can you ask
Knights,
for?
Man, they don't take sweeps. They just don't get swept, really.
Yeah, they're such a fascinating team to watch. But I agree with what you said about the Birds and the Bees. They have really shown us that there's still a lot of quality there, even though their record is 2-4.
Yeah, there's promise to this team, which I like.
Yeah, and they can still nab a result here and there. They were this close to really, really giving a good shake up into North America, because if they had beaten the Knights, man, the whole thing would have just been
would have been dire
all
for
over
them.
the place.
But the next game is just, I want to cry in the corner right now over this one, but Space Station Gaming got a total sweep over Rogue. So Rogue, at this point, they are essentially set for relegation. They've had too many sweeps happen on them that even if they win, they're not going to win both their games next week. One of them's against NRG, so they're going to lose that game. They have to hope that they can somehow beat Cloud9. But even with that, like, they've just taken too many sweeps that they're not going to be able to avoid it, I'm pretty sure. It's not, I think there's there still is like a really small chance that they can avoid it, but just It's like a ridiculous percentage right now. Like there's a deal I use to check the percentage of possibility and stuff, and it's like stupidly hard. Like it's a very small chance that they make it out of relegation. At this point, I'm just hoping that they somehow survive relegation. To be honest.
Yeah, there's not really that much more to say about it. They haven't looked good all season.
They've looked terrible all season, which
I
sucks.
don't think there's really anything to fix it. I just think the other teams in this North American RLCS are just better. That's just how it is. They sort of caught lightning in a bottle at the end of last season. A lot of people don't
They
like.
did so good last season. Like they
But
like the thing is like last season they still lost a lot of series, but they managed to force so many game fives with all these teams that it's like, how do you go from forcing all these game fives to keep yourself in it to now you're just getting swept every single week? Like literally one, two. Okay, there's only 1 week so far that they have avoided getting swept, and that was week 3, where they finally won one, but then they lost to G2, and they only won one game there.
yeah, they just don't really look like an RLCS team at the moment.
They don't, and it sucks because I love that team.
They're going to be facing the drop though, so that's.
I'm just hoping they can survive that at this point. Like I'm not. They're already a lock for bottom 2, pretty much. Now it's just a matter of like, is it going to be Cloud9 or is it going to be Birds and the Bees that end up joining them? Is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, based on the remaining schedule, to be completely honest with you, I think it's actually going to be Cloud9, and I know that's absurd, but
yeah, no, I kind of agree with you on that.
Because we're actually going to talk about Cloud9 in our next series here, aren't we?
Yep, they got swept by Energy, which is crazy when Energy's sweeping the other 2 big 3 teams. And the only team that gave them any issue this season so far has been the Pittsburgh Knights. Everybody else, they either drop one game or they clean sweep them. Yeah, they got lost one, clean sweep, lost one, and then clean sweep. Pittsburgh Knights is the only one that has been able to take them the distance.
Yeah, and I think this was an expected result. I don't think too many people, based on the way their respective seasons have been going, that I don't think too many people expected Cloud9 to actually win this game. However, there is one moment in this game that I want to talk about, and you might know what I'm referencing, Ryan.
I know what you're talking about, and I have some thoughts on it too.
We're gonna bring this up because it was funny. So let me just say this: Rule 1 in Rocket League, and yes, it's Rule 1. Relax. Rule 1 in Rocket League is if your cars lock facing forward together, that you have to keep the lock going, right? You're both holding down your right trigger or your mouse 1 or whatever to keep going, and you just happen to lock cars. The honorable thing to do, right, is to hold it and to keep the Rule 1 locked because it's funny, because it's humorous, and it's just sort of a community thing that people do.
It's a community thing. That's what it is.
So we haven't seen it ever happen really at the highest level. We've had a few opportunities where, 2 players will lock cars like that, but then either it's like someone like got scored on right away, or someone breaks out of it, or someone gets demoed. Like pretty much at the very highest level, we haven't seen this until game number 3, Cloud9. Tie game 1-1. They're about halfway through the game, and my man's Turbo manages to find Squishy Muffins on the sidewall, and they lock cars, and they don't move. Nobody.
It went on for at least 30 plus seconds, where it was like they held that, and then ultimately Energy scored. It was basically Justin and Garrett versus Gimmick and Torment.
And so I don't want to be a shit stirrer, right? Because that's not really who I am. But when I initially saw it,
I'm not allowed to share my opinion, but
when I initially saw it, I was like, this is amazing, like this is funny, like I can't believe it, like I love it. However, however, I do think it is a bad look for Cloud9 to be doing things like that when their season has been going so sideways. Um, I know a lot of people don't expect them to beat Energy anyway. I understand that, you are still playing to have fun to an extent, but this is the highest level of competition. And, like, call me a boomer if you want, but, like, I came up on, like, a traditional sports background, and you play until the final whistle, right? You always give 100% all the time, especially if you're being paid professionally to play, right?
Yeah.
And, like, that part of me is fairly upset by it, because I feel like that's, even if you think it makes no difference whatsoever, which I tend to agree with, I don't think the result would have changed if Squishy just had not done it.
Yeah.
But there's still a part of me that's like, you play to win the game every single minute, every single time. And, like, to sit there and be locked in it, like, yeah, like, I get, like, it's a community thing, but I don't know. It's something about it just doesn't sit right with me. I don't know.
Okay, I'm kind of glad that that's your perspective, because whenever you first mentioned it, you seemed like, oh yeah, we're going to talk about it on the show. And I was kind of sitting there like, I agree with you. I think, like, Cloud9, you are literally facing relegation at this point. Like, why on earth are you going to do this? Like, this is people's dream to make it to this level. And I get it. I'm probably being overdramatic in the way that I'm talking about it right now, but it's just to prove a point of so many people, like, this is their dream to make it to where you are right now. And for Energy, that actually is a play that's beneficial to them, because Justin and Kara G have done 2v2 tournaments multiple times. Like, that's a beneficial thing for them to lock up Squishy. Literally, it was Squishy's choice about whether that happened or not, and he chose to stick with it. And it's one of those things that it's like, man, if I'm Torment and Gimmick, like, I'm mad about this. I get it. It's game 3. Do you really think that Cloud9 is going to pull off a reverse sweep at this point in the game with how they've been doing the season? No. But it's the attitude of it all. And again, like, I could be coming across as very overdramatic about it, but it's just one of those things of like, man, if I own this team and I see that, and with how they've been performing, like, I'm mad. I'm mad as hell about this. Like, that you play to win because I'm paying you to play to win. You go out there and you win the game. You're not winning right now. And on top of it, like, when you look at the rest of the setup for how this season's looking, there's still a really, really strong chance that they end up in relegation. Like, they have, like, even if Rogue beats them, it's done. Like, it's pretty much done at this point, because Cloud9 has just not been performing. Like, and it's like, there's teams that they should have beaten that they've lost to, and it's like, the other thing though is Cloud9, like, they've even said before, they don't take league play too seriously. And I think that it's about to bite them in the butt because they don't take it seriously. Like, Squishy and them have said themselves that they try not to take league play too seriously. Well, guess what? Like, that attitude is about to kind of ruin everything for you guys. And do I honestly think that they're going to get relegated? No. But a lot of teams would kill to be where you are right now, and you're not living up to, like, what people would do if they were given this chance that you have. And, like, the fact they've had the ability to be here for multiple seasons, and they could be here for many, many more seasons, is just like, what are you doing, guys? Like, your performance as of late has not been good. And, like, it's starting to make me wonder if, like, this might be one of the moments where we finally see Cloud9 make a team change. Not entirely sure. Not entirely sure that it's going to happen, but the results haven't been what they used to be. And so I'm starting to wonder if we could possibly see one of these players depart this team very shortly.
Yeah, I was generally surprised that there wasn't more pushback on this from the community when with the whole Rule 1
Oh,
thing.
a lot of
Like
people on
I
Reddit
come
were like stoked about it, and I was like, I'm not for this.
I said that they were going to catch a lot of heat for it, but I haven't really seen it. So my
Oh,
prediction may have been off, but I'm
everybody on
kind of
Reddit was in
surprised.
love. All the comments on the Reddit posts about it were like, "Oh, this is great! Like, I love that they did this." And it's like, yeah, cool. They're paying homage to the community, but this really isn't the time or place for them to be doing it. If it was like, if it was any other, if it was like Energy and Pittsburgh Knights who that happened to, I'd probably care a little bit less because both those teams are basically a lock for the top half of the standings anyway. Energy's already a lock to go to land now, and Pittsburgh Knights are essentially a lock. Like, they're probably going to win their game coming up this week, but like, if it happened with those teams, I wouldn't care so much. For a team that's facing relegation, like, you really
Yeah.
shouldn't be doing that right now. Like,
That's
to be honest.
and that's why I think I had so much of it not sitting well with me is because the optics are horrible. They
Yeah.
just are.
It looks
So
bad.
I don't know. Well, tell you what, if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're listening on Spotify or
Let me know your
however
thoughts.
you're
I want to
tuning in,
hear what they are because I don't.
I actually
I
want to
don't
know.
agree.
So put a comment on the YouTube. We usually upload these episodes to the Reddit. If you're on the Rocket League Esports subreddit, let us know. Like, I want to hear more people's opinion on this because
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just again initially when I saw it, I was like, yeah, this is awesome. And like the more I think about it, the more I'm like, it's just really poor optics.
This ain't
So
it, Chief.
I want to hear what you guys think.
But that concludes North America. We're gonna hop off that train now, and
Uh-oh.
we're gonna move on over to EU. And this one, we're probably gonna speed through this one a little bit, just because we're running out of time. We told ourselves we wouldn't do this, man. We said we wouldn't do this to ourselves.
I know, but we're gonna go fast.
So,
Gonna go fast.
Game number one, not surprising. Mouse Sport took the game over Complexity 3-2. Complexity have looked bad all season. They're now guaranteed for relegation, and stuff sucks for them. Mouse have been looking great. They managed to make all these reverse sweeps happen. They've been taking all these games to game 5, and they took down Complexity. Not surprising though.
Yeah, I think this is actually the best series Complexity has played all season, to be completely honest with you.
I think their next one was better.
Well, again, we'll talk about it, but I'm saying this week in general, this is the best they've looked all season, but it's not enough. Mouse was the better team. They showed that with their quality throughout 5 games. Good for Mouse, who is now combined with their other result this week, now sitting on the very tippity top of VU. Good for them.
Yeah, especially after that team was facing relegation last season.
Right?
So huge turnaround for them. Really happy for those guys. But moving on to the next one, Veloce took down FC Barcelona 3-2, and that one almost went in the way of a reverse sweep for FC Barcelona, but Veloce managed to clinch out the final game. Veloce has almost had a couple of reverse sweeps happen to them, and then they managed to take it in game 5.
Yeah, well, that's why reverse sweep is so difficult to do, because you have to maintain it for 3 straight games.
Yeah.
Again, good on Veloce. They just seem to keep getting their results.
Killing it, man. I'm so proud of the team. They've been killing it.
Yeah, another one that we didn't think was really going to do all that hot in RLCS, and they surprised all of us. So
I mean, they didn't even make it to RLCS last season. That's why I was like, oh, they're not going to do well. Complexity actually made it, and then they didn't. And suddenly they triple disbands, and they're automatically promoted, and now they're just like wiping the floor left and right. It's awesome. Moving on to the next one, though. Reciprocity managed to take down Complexity 3-2, and this was the final nail in the coffin for Complexity. This game right here is what did it for them, pushed them down to that guaranteed relegation spot. Reciprocity, this is a very seasoned team. They're, again, Mousesport and Reciprocity are two teams that I would never expect to lose against Complexity, but Complexity managed to force game 5s on them, so there's something to be said about that.
Yeah, and Complexity in both of these series actually took 2 out of the 3 first games. So meaning that, they had in both of these series, they had games 4 and 5 to clinch it out, and they couldn't do it. again, I think this is actually the best complexity has looked all season. I thought Greasy in particular played a little bit better, but yeah, it's just not enough at this point. And
Yeah.
well, now they're going down, or well, they face the prospect of relegating. Sorry.
Yeah. Going into the next one, Mouse Sports managed to 3-0 Dignitas. Dignitas, I was expecting a bit better from them here. They've been looking pretty good with Astral, in my opinion, so I was thinking that they could do something here, but nah. Mouse Sports, though, has been on top of it this season. Like, I think it's going to be them. It's between them, Reciprocity, Veloce, and Renault Vitality to basically take the first place seed. Now, top 4 teams could still take the first place position. Like, god dang it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's so crazy. This was a really low scoring series. Only a grand total of 5 goals from both teams scored across 3 games. 2 1-0s from Mouse and then a 2-1 to close it out. Yeah, as you said, I expected more from Dig, but a really defensive series. I felt like both teams were sort of playing to not lose, and then when you do that, you kind of hinder yourself. But yeah, Mouse Sports, again, this combined with the result over complexity, now sitting on the top of EU, and Dig, they got to be careful.
Yeah,
they got to be careful.
Dig's again. That's dangerous for them. But going to the next one, TSM managed to 3-1 Veloce and take a series for themselves here. TSM, they haven't been looking too great this season. But again, like, actually, even they technically have a chance to take first place this season. Like, that's how hotly contested first place is in EU. Like, the top 5 teams could still fight it out for that position. For the number 1 place. Not even the second place position is even more competitive, with Dignitas still has the ability to possibly make it that far even. Actually, no, they don't. No, they don't. I had to look at that.
Yeah, well, it would take... I'd have to run it through there's a useful tool that
but
you can
when you look at the amount of losses for each team and they have 3, everybody else has 2 or 1, like even if they win their next 2 games, like they can't take it. So they can't take
regardless, it's still basically wide open.
Yeah.
Is what we're saying.
But like, it's just super competitive, and I mean, that was a big win for them. Like, to take down Veloce, that's a big one, especially with, again, how they've been performing this season. Like, kudos. I didn't get to see this one, so I don't know how the team looked, but I am going to bet a little bit of money that Alpha was probably a carry for the team again.
Yeah,
or he was the MVP of the team again.
They scored 6 goals in the third game, and I'm pretty sure a fair majority of those were from Alpha. So, yeah, I said last week that if Veloce managed to split, if they managed to split this week, which they did, that they'll give themselves a shot. So next week, Veloce will play Mouse Sports, and their fate is in their own hands, really. Because if they win, I'm pretty sure they're just about there. It would depend on some other results, but
yeah, if they win one of next week's games, I think they've guaranteed themselves first place.
Well, I think it depends on the Mouse versus Reciprocity game next week, because next week that'll pretty much decide, who's sitting on the top, because both those teams are in the. Sorry, Mouse is number 1, Reciprocity is number 2, so they'll play each other next week. That'll really define the landscape for EU, but I think Veloce has put themselves in a good spot. So.
And then the final result is Renault Vitality managed to 3-0 Reciprocity. Renault Vitality was looking in shape for that game. Finally, this team showing us again like what they are capable of. They are such a deadly team. So it's really good to see them stepping up and putting themselves in a great position again. And again, like week number 5 is going to be so freaking close, because if Mouse wins their first game against Veloce, and then Reciprocity beats them, and Renault Vitality wins both of their games. Like, it's literally going to come down to game differential for those 3 teams on like who gets the top 2. Like, that's how close this is.
Yeah, it's setting up for a really fantastic week next week in both regions, actually. So Yeah, I can't wait personally because I want to see who can lock up those land spots.
Yeah.
You know.
And it's going to be super interesting. I'm super excited for how week 5 is going to turn out. You got anything else you want to add to this before we move on to the mailbag?
No, only because we took way too long still to get to this segment, and so I actually want to answer some questions.
Somehow we still managed to like run the time out like this. So we're gonna move on to the mailbag. Kelvin Winter writes into us with he writes into us with 3 questions, but one of them we're gonna leave for someone who has more knowledge. I'm gonna hold it for a guest one day. But his first question, I think you mentioned, though, it's frequently talked about in this community about Rocket League moving to free to play. What's the pros and cons of that from a player viewpoint as well as from Psyonic's stance? And I know it's never a simple answer, but if it's the better gaming model, how come they haven't rolled it out yet? I like the question just because it's such a constant thing that the community tries to figure out of like, why aren't they doing free to play? It would help bring in so many more people, yada, yada, yada. I think that is kind of the point of the Chinese version, is to gauge like if it would be feasible, you know?
Right. Can I take a crack at this one, because I feel like I can dive into those specifically. So, what are the pros? What are the pros and cons from a player viewpoint? So, really, the biggest thing is Smurf accounts, which is typically we see high-level players will have an alt account or a second account or maybe even multiple accounts where they can play.
Episode 2 already in Diamond.
You know, where they'll go and they can play in different ranks. So with going to free to play, obviously it makes that a lot easier. It will, sort of highlight the smurfing problem in Rocket League, because, now you have to pay however many dollars it is, at least on PC. I forget what the process is like on console, but you have to, pay the extra money to get a second account. It's sort of a taboo thing, but I think you'll see more Smurfs once they go through with free to play. The other side of it too is when the game does go free to play, the monetization system in game from Psyonic's end will change immensely. Psyonix actually makes a ton of money from the sales they get out of the Steam store. Like, that's why they haven't made the switch yet. And I'll just be completely real, is that they still make a ton of money from people buying the game. Yeah. And that's a huge, huge risk to switch completely to keys and crates. Now, we don't know.
Well, it's one of those things, too, that you have to kind of think about it. Like, CSGO was pay to play for a long time before they finally went free to play. Like,
and even then,
you can still, like, pay for, like, I don't understand what it is you pay for exactly, but I know that like you can get the entire game essentially for free now. They have like a weird system with it, but it's like it took forever for it to go free to play to where you can just download it and start playing right away. And I think that like with the new non-crate system that they're going to be rolling out, and based on how it does in China, I think are going to be 2 huge factors that decide whether they decide to make that move or if they're like, okay, this may just not be a free-to-play game,
Yeah, and to your point on China, I think China is a little bit different because of the cultural difference there, at least with gaming. In China, the free-to-play with, cosmetic monetization or whatever is far more common than it is in the Western world.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing too, though, is like, have you seen how the Chinese version looks and stuff? And like,
yeah,
how it kind of works. They had like
Rizzo had that video.
I'm talking a little bit more about like the systems inside it. Maybe those can be things that they look at to bring into if they decide to go free to play here, which would help incentivize people. Hey, it's free, but keep logging in, keep playing, and all this stuff.
Yeah. So I feel like that covers most of your question. Again, I think the reason people want it is because it reduces, it increases the accessibility of the game. If you don't have to pay to download it, then anyone can try it, which is it gets you hooked.
that's like one of the big things that like Ninja always talks about for Fortnite is, oh, you really like this game that I play? Guess what? It's free. Go start playing right now. Like you can do
Right.
that. Like, and that's the thing too. Like Fortnite's different because like you can play it literally everywhere. But like Rocket League is almost everywhere. It's just not on your phone is really the only thing.
Mm.
And so it's like if you could tell someone who you're showing RLCS finals and stuff, if you're showing that to someone, you can be like, "Hey, guess what? Like, you can just go play this. You don't even need anything. Just go play it right now." There's
Yeah, and I
no
think
it's not even it's not $1. It's free. Go play it. It's so much fun. You're gonna love it.
that's the reason why a lot of people are so bullish on free to play is
Yeah.
because it can get a lot more people in, which is good for the game
Yeah.
and for everything in general. So yeah.
So hope that answers your question, Kelvin. But we have another question from you here. This is your third question you asked me. I know money is a touchy subject, and you don't have to dime anyone out specifically, but what kind of money are these pro players making? What do orgs pay? Are there benefits like free gear, team houses? What if they don't have an organization? If they win a $50,000 tournament, how much does the government take from them in taxes? And do the players split it evenly? That's just some of the stuff I've wondered as I've started following the scene more. Sorry for any grammatical errors. Basically, it's different for each team, but I know that North America and EU have dramatically higher pay rates for players than SAM and OCE. So like that's part of why Drip A wanted to make the move is because like the pay and opportunity is so much more ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
As for pay, I want to say it's something like
So
I can't remember exactly what it is.
if I again, we first of all, let's just say this: nobody knows for sure. Well, other than the people who are like heavily involved in the scene.
There's like a ballpark area though. I want to say I want to say it's something between like six. It's some maybe six is too high. I want to say it's something like between 45 and 8K per month for each player.
$4,500 and $8,000 per month. Not
yeah, 4,500.
Yeah. That's I've heard that area as well. Again, we're not really privileged to know the exact details on that. The benefits of organizations, as you said. So really, the biggest thing is they can hit up orgs for like sponsored equipment and stuff. Is really the big thing. So like if you're playing on a PC and it's not that great, but you still, in spite of that, manage to.
Alpha played on a crappy laptop. The second FC Barcelona picked him up, he got himself a nice gaming PC.
Exactly.
They gave it to him.
Right. And so that's something. Team houses for Rocket League are not that common.
The only one currently is Garrett G and Turbo Pulso.
Yeah, and that's
their
just
third
from
teammate, Justin, is still in high school, so he doesn't live with them. I
Yeah,
want
and
to see Sis move into that house, though.
We might see more team houses if RLCS league play ever goes all LAN all the time. Because if it's advantageous for that. Ty Swoogle is saying in the chat, by the way, that apparently Mouse Sports are in a facility together at the moment. So
yeah, they are. I know that when Evil Geniuses had their team, they were setting it up for that too, so that they could have everybody in the same facility. Like some of the organizations, they have like little apartment. They have essentially like their own apartment complex for all the players and staff to live in. And then they
awesome.
have a separate building where like all the gaming stuff and the offices are located like right next door. So it's like these people wake up in their apartment, then they just go over next door and start their day pretty much. Like, yeah, it really depends on the organization. And a lot of it's going to come down to like how well known is the organization, what types of sponsorships does that organization have, what amount of money do they have access to, like are they someone that has invested money in team houses or facilities? FaZe Clan's a really good example of that. They invest in team houses, and then groups like Mouse Sports and Evil Geniuses invest in team facilities. So it kind of like it varies on like what you're looking at. Like Energy, like I don't know exactly what they go for, but they're housing Turbo, and Garrett basically decided to move in. So I don't think that makes it a team house. I think because Turbo moved overseas and they were like, you need a place to live, we'll give that to you.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is, Rocket League isn't big enough where like you see like other esports like League of Legends specifically. I'll bring up the example where
Yeah.
like these teams have like their own houses. They have
Like
they
workout
have
facilities,
everything.
everything.
Oh God, literally everything. But that's because the scale of their esport is so much greater than Rocket League
Yeah.
that I don't think Rocket League professionals are living that kind of lifestyle, but they're getting there.
They're
still
slowly
making good
but
money.
surely getting to that point.
Yeah, and again, they're still making really solid money. I mean, to be as young as some of these kids are and be making like on average, I'm gonna say again, average maybe like $60,000 a year US,
Yeah.
like ish in that area as a 16, 17, 18-year-old, like
Yeah.
you're doing all right for yourself.
To close out your question, Kelvin, I would say the biggest benefit to being with an organization is you have stability, you have support, you have people who are in your corner saying they believe in you, they're willing to do all this stuff because they believe in you. And I think when you're a team that doesn't have that level of support, it makes it harder for you to do things like DreamHack, because part of the things is organizations pay for travel and things like that. If you win, cool. You get to keep that money. In terms of how much government takes from you in taxes, that's really going to depend where the tournament is held. If it's held in the United States, depends on what state it's held in, because if you hold the tournament in New York, the tax rate's going to differentiate from what you're taxed here in Texas. Like it's very different. I think for the Fortnite World Championships, the guy who won the singles, I'm blanking on his name, he basically got like 50% of his money taken by the government in taxes. So it largely is going to depend on where the tournament is at as to what the tax rate's going to be. So that's not really a question we can answer, but I hope that all of that kind of answers what you're wanting to know. Organizations are really good to have. They're great for the scene because it helps give these players stability so that we can see them excel even further. Does that about sum it up, you think?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm just I want to thank Kelvin for the great questions, because I know he has another question out there too, but we're gonna save that one for.
I'm saving that one for when a coach is on the show next, so I can
or a manager or something like that.
Yeah, cause that's a question I want to ask them because they can answer it a bit better than I can. So don't worry, that question is going to get answered, man. And then our next questions come from Neo. His first question, I'm just going to answer outright. What's your favorite anime? I have a new anime that I love now. It is called Asobi Asobase. I love it. It is hilarious. I was crying with laughter at some of the scenes. If you don't watch anime and you're interested, go watch that one. It's really freaking hilarious.
Yeah, Pokemon is my favorite anime.
You're not as much of an anime guy.
No, I'm an anime poser. It's okay.
It's okay. I've watched a lot of anime, so I know too much anime. The reason I say Asobi Asobase is because I just watched that one recently, and it still is very fresh on my mind. And I don't think a show's had me laughing as much as that one did. If I'm totally honest, I don't think I laughed at an anime as much as that one. So I really liked that one. It really was hilarious. Now on to his more serious questions. That was just a fun one to answer. I want to know the origin story of PWR. And Perino, if you think of any thing you want to chime in on here, feel free. I know this is probably more directed at me than you. But
well, you don't want to talk about the Brig Zone?
Oh my God, ignore that crap. I want to know the origin story of PWR. How and why did you decide to start playing with Rockets? Did you have any goals from the start that you have reached and or still want to reach? At any point, did you feel like stopping? And if so, why? And why did you keep going? So, I've said before, like, kind of why I started playing with Rockets. A lot of that was my degree for college was in recreation administration, so I wanted to do a lot more with like running tournaments and leagues and sports and stuff. And career-wise, things weren't working out for me, and I was really into Rocket League at the time. And I saw how easy it was just to start up a community. So I decided, hey, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and do this. Made a post on Reddit saying, hey, give me a shot. I'd like to run a league. Here's the Discord I made. Like, I hope that you're interested and want to come play with me. Like, this will be a great thing. It was a very self-serving reason that I started playing with the Rockets,
Hmm.
but it gradually grew and grew. Off that Reddit post, I met Eldino, who's our main tournament director at Playing with Rockets. He's the one who handles all the seating for me. He's the co-owner for everything. I almost said basically. He is actually the co-owner. And like it's been just a crazy ride going through it since. As for goals and stuff like that, goals, we set simple goals for ourselves, like grow to X amount of number people in the community by this date. And then I think once we hit about 1,000 people in the community, we kind of just stopped creating those goals because we decided that wasn't as important to us. It wasn't as important to us to have, you know, 3,000 plus people in the deal, as our main goal was more about getting participation in our tournaments and making sure that we're still providing a quality tournament. So our thing is we really do compare ourselves against a lot of our peers in the tournament side of things for North America. So we look at what are our tournaments getting in comparison to everyone else. Are we below everyone else? Are we above everyone else? And so like that's kind of how we make decisions on like, should we try to make changes, things like that. As one of the biggest things for us was just trying to get totally funded. And we did that. Thanks to Matcherino for all their help. We are officially like fully funded. We don't have to have anybody helping us through Patreon and stuff, but it allows us to do even more things like having a website and things like that, and even trying to increase our prize pools even more. So through things like that was a huge goal for us. And once we hit it, it was like, oh man, like this is crazy. Like we never thought we were gonna get here.
Can I jump in really quickly?
Go for it.
What was it like getting into the studio? Because I know that was a big thing for you guys as well, was partnering up with Coral Sword and getting all of these tournaments that you do, having them broadcast from a studio. So can you talk a little bit like what that process was like, and like because I know it sort of relates maybe into the last question, but
Yeah. No, that was huge for us getting a studio. It was, to be honest, we thought that was a pipe dream. Like, not even gonna lie, like I always thought about it. I was like, oh, if I could design my own studio, that'd be so cool. And I happened to like join these guys who were doing Smash tournaments and stuff. They saw that I did this casting and production and everything, and they were like, hey, can you help us with this? And so I started helping them. They introduced me to the people at Coral Sword. And I had brought it up to them. I was like, hey, I would love to do my tournaments here. Like, I see that you guys seem like you'll have openings. Like, would that be okay with you guys? And like, I like did a whole presentation for them pretty much and stuff. I had meetings with them, and they were like, yeah, like this seems great. Let's do it. And so eventually we just kind of jumped right into it, and oh, it was huge. Like I remember I was like super ecstatic telling everybody and staff. I was just like, we have a studio now. Like it's a thing. Oh my gosh, like we made it. Like this is insane to me. And like our viewership hasn't like skyrocketed or anything from it, but it's like that, like personally, like that's just something I'm proud of having. Yeah, it was kind of a goal, but it was one that we thought wasn't really that attainable, and then somehow we actually did attain it, which was just interesting in its own right, because we just really, like when I say we didn't expect it, we really didn't expect it, and things just kind of fell in place for us to do it.
One day we're gonna get this podcast going in the studio.
Yeah,
you know,
dude, you just need to move down to Texas, man. That's all you need to do.
Okay, sure.
They've told me that if I want to do my podcast in studio, I can. You just need to come here, is all.
Okay, bet.
I'll fly out. I will do that with you, man. Like they've said we can. They like, and that's the thing too, is like our relationship with them has been really awesome, and like they love us, they love what we do, they love the professionalism that we try to bring to their stuff. And like getting to meet the owner, Hunter Pence, like that was crazy. Like it's afforded us a lot of opportunities that we never thought we were going to get, which has just been like cool in its own right. Moving on to that last question you have though. At any point, did you feel like stopping? Yes. Many,
Yeah.
many times I thought about stopping playing with Rockets. There were times that I was like, this takes way too much energy to do. Um, it's grown too much. I can't handle it now. No, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, those are thoughts that like occurred to me regularly. And I would be lying if I said they still don't occur to me. Like, there are plenty of times that I've thought of like, I could stop tomorrow and like I would probably be okay with it. But it's also one of those things that was like, once I start doing it, I realize I'm like, I genuinely love doing this. And it's one of those things that like, when you're outside of it, you're kind of like, oh, whatever. And then like, once you get into it, you're just like, okay, I'm happy I'm doing this still. I like doing this.
Yeah, I think one of the big things too is because you're a little bit older than me, even, and you're probably fairly older than most of the people in this scene, in the sense like, like you have your own life, you have your own family, like, it's hard. It's hard to make the commitment, and even to sit here and do the show for,
even for 1 hour, like just once you have a wife, once you have a full-time job, like there's just so much that goes into it that just makes it genuinely hard to do these things regularly. But it is one of those things like I just genuinely love doing it. And the other thing too, though, is like I said before, I started this because my career professionally wasn't going the way I wanted it to go, but I then got a job in the career field I wanted to be in. I'm a sports and aquatics director now. And so like I get to go run sports leagues and like all this other cool stuff. Like I get to do the thing that I wanted to do for a long time. And so it's almost like once I got it, I was kind of like, I really don't need this anymore, but I genuinely love doing it. And I don't know, I think all the time about like trying to scale back on what we're doing and stuff, or trying to see if I can find other people who can do it. Like having someone like you come on and do the show with me all the time and being able to run the show on the nights that I can't. Like, or sometimes there's just nights I'm just like, I'm too tired, like I really can't. Like, it's super helpful to have someone who's just as passionate about the stuff as I am around.
Yeah, and again, I've been, I was part of playing with Rockets as a community member, really from the,
from the
pretty
start,
much from the outset.
From the start, you've been here. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, and I've always just sort of been around. And once, because Ryan, I think some of the other members of staff were doing outreach, and they were saying, hey, we want to do some more content related stuff. What do you guys think? And I was like, a podcast, because I think podcasting is a great format for a lot of stuff like this.
Yeah. I think it's been a great format for us. Like, I love doing this.
And, and because I had like thought actually, prior to committing to doing Around the Scene, I had thought about doing my own podcast because I like the format, I enjoy doing it. And I was like, I kind of want to saw it. And then I saw your message and I was like, if you do a podcast, I'm like, I am going to be here to help you do it, because
I immediately brought you in too. I was like, he wants to do it. Yeah. He's been here forever. Like, I want him in on it. So yeah, that's kind of how this all started with you.
Yeah, no, and again, I really appreciate it, because I think now, I feel now more a part of playing with Rockets than I ever have.
You appreciate it? I appreciate it. I can't do this all on my own. It's so helpful to have other people who want to do this.
Well, because the other thing is like, or I was going to say like, because the other thing people don't realize too, I think, is there's a lot of work that goes in just outside of sitting here and talking about things. Like,
so much work.
I won't go too deep into it because it's kind of boring, but like, I mean, even so, like, so what'll happen is after we conclude the show here fairly soon, I'll get the video file from Ryan, and then we'll edit it, make sure the sound quality is still good. I export it to MP3 and then upload it onto our website, so then it hits our RSS page, and that's usually by like midnight plus, Eastern.
It takes
so that way
to upload these things.
And then, we do a cut for YouTube, so the YouTube processing and editing takes a long time. I have to make it, we do thumbnails and stuff for the YouTube videos. So even though those aren't, like crazy thumbnails, they still take time. Like, it's a lot of effort to commit to every week.
I would stay up so late trying to make everything when I was like doing all this for those first like 50 episodes or so by myself. Like, it was rough. And like it's just been a wild ride all the way through, and it's one of those things that like it never could have been possible like without people just being interested in what we're doing. Like it really is awesome. Like even if you're just listening to this podcast and you don't participate in a single tournament we do, like that's totally fine. Like it just having anybody who's interested in what we're doing it's awesome enough to me that like it makes me want to keep doing it.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about it a little bit actually before the show. Like I love like just genuinely like I really enjoy like when I see people comment and they're like, "Hey, like this is a great episode. You know, I love listening to this on my way to work." Like that.
That's motivation enough right there, to be totally honest.
Exactly. Yep. So
yeah, and like that's the other thing too is like we haven't neither of us or any of the staff have ever made a dime off of playing with Rockets. Despite how much success we found, we've never made a single dime off of this thing. Like that has been like crazy in and of itself. Like not that I'm like looking for money, but it's just one of those things that's like
but I'm kind of looking for
but it's one of those things that it's like that's how much we love doing this. Like we've done this for almost 2 years now and haven't made a single dime. Like that's just awesome to me. And then like the last thing I want to talk about is kind of my casting career. That's been wild in and of itself. I was joking the other day. I think I said it to you maybe. I think I said it to you guys on the meeting in the meeting on Monday of like if you had ever told me that I was going to be spoilers for those of you who haven't seen the Rival series deal on Sunday, I was hosting it. I got to act as the host for it. That if you had told me 2 years ago, hey, one day you're going to be able to one day you're going to be a host of the Rival series, even if it is just the B stream, like I still count that as like something amazing. I probably would have just told you you're full of shit. To be totally honest, I never thought I'd ever get an opportunity like that. And like, it's been like one blessing after another to be able to get to do all the things that we do. And like, it's not like we don't make money off of this or anything. It's literally just like we're people who love the game. At the end of the day, like that's all we are. We're people who love Rocket League. And that's why like our opinions really don't mean anything, but like the fact that anybody even cares what they are is just like cool enough in and of itself.
Yeah, it's funny because I actually I'll be completely honest. Like, I don't really listen to other podcasts in our group, in our Rocket League esports group. Like, there are a few other ones, and I've taken a stab at most of them, and they're pretty good generally, I find. But like, I don't know. Like to me, like I always just enjoy really listening to ours, and like I feel like once you put the time and effort into producing the content and to
it's your baby, you love it.
Yeah, like. I enjoy listening to the episodes. Like, I'll tune in on Spotify. Like, it was actually funny because maybe a weekend or two ago, I was driving back from a friend's house out in Central PA, and I just had the podcast on in the car, and like it was really nice to listen to just on the highway. Just driving in. I was like, I get why other people also enjoy this because like it's hard when you're on the inside to listen to it, but like I had like an opportunity to just sit there and like. Just like binge like 3 episodes in a row, like and it was really good. I was like, oh wow, like this actually made my drive like that much better. Like I get it.
We're actually half decent. It sounds like.
Hey, you know what? Like, and I mean, I don't say it's like toot our own horn.
No, but it is one of those things that, like it's nice to just be proud of this, even if it at times is just basically a hobby for us. Like it's just nice to be proud of it, But I mean, again, like anybody who's willing to be a Patreon patron and stuff, like you guys are awesome. Like we appreciate you to the ends of the earth and back. Like the fact that you believe in this and you like this enough to give us any form of money, even $1 is just like that's awesome to me. And like we're kind of rambling now, but like sincerely, like. Thank you guys. Like, if you're listening to this show, thank you. You are truly awesome, and we hope that you enjoy what we're doing, and we hope to continue creating something that you can enjoy. And we're gonna do this as long as we enjoy talking about Rocket League, pretty much. Which, to be honest, I've been in Rocket League for quite a while now. I really wonder if I'm ever gonna be tired of it.
Yeah, don't ask me how many hours I put into this game. Just watching and playing and everything.
Yeah.
It's amazing, really. And
Yeah.
just as Ryan said, thank you guys for all the support that we get here. It's really cool. It's just really cool. So
Yeah.
thank you.
All right, we're going to get off that note and we are going to close out the show now. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Once again, be sure to follow us, do all that jazz. You already know the drill. We'll be updating this later on YouTube and podcast services for you guys. Perino, where can people follow you?
Oh, well, they can follow me at Perino TV, which is, again, across the bottom of the video screen right here. If you happen to be watching here on Twitch or on YouTube, if you are listening, that is at Perino TV. Or you can follow my dead Twitch channel at Perino. I haven't been able to stream a lot lately, but
Dead Twitch channel. You still stream more than most people.
I know, but I've been bad about it lately. I'm trying to get back into it.
You stream more than I do.
It's one of those things, but that's where you can find me.
You can also follow me over at PWR_Ryan. You can follow us at PWR Leagues on Twitter. You can also follow us here. All those other places we already talked about. Guys, this has been Around the Scene, presented to you by Playing with Rockets. I'm Ryan. That's Perino. And it's always a pleasure having you guys with us. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you next time.
Have a good one, guys.